Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mr. Ibe Benjamin. I'm the CEO of Danny King Consulting. Danny King Consulting is a chartered accounting and management consultant firm. We are based in Lagos, Nigeria. We provide various range of services to our numerous clients. Among the services we provide, which include the following: general accounting services, preparation of financial statements and other statutory reports, complete accounting system development, internal control systems development, tax consultancy services, forensic audit and investigation, financial analyst and investment advisory services, mergers and acquisition and due diligence. Other services we provide include corporate restructuring and reengineering, business planning and strategy development, human resource management, outsourcing, recruitment, selection and placement, manpower training and development, mergers and acquisition, as I said before, marketing research and field studies, business names registration, and incorporation of companies. We also provide and prepare feasibility report studies for our numerous clients. Our contact information include the following. Our website is www.dannykingconsulting.com www.dannykingconsulting.com. Our phone numbers are 234 080 281 77177, 234 080 281 77177, or 234 081 5622 679, 234 081 5662 2679. Our WhatsApp number is 234 090 94 93 5985, 234 0909 493 5985. In continuation of our series of lectures, which we started some months ago, we want to look at risk management. Although we have treated the first and second sections in our risk management lecture, we want to continue with our lecture on risk management. But today, we want to look at business risk. Business risk is so important that we need to have good understanding of them to avoid we having challenges in our various business activities. So in our course of lecture of today, we shall look at the meaning of business risk, different types of business risks, as well as other classifications of business risks, sources of product reputation risk. We shall look at them. We shall also look at effects of product reputation risk on businesses. If time shall permit, we shall also look at various classifications of business risks and other responses and mitigation of risks, if time shall permit us. So these are the things we hope to cover in our lecture of today. So let's start. Definition of business risk. What is business risk? Business risk threatens the viability or feasibility of business strategies, activities, goals, and objectives. Business risks pose a threat to the smooth operation of a business. If they become real, they jeopardize the project or the business. Business risk is a serious threat to any business organization. They are always hindering the smooth running of any business activity. That's the reason why they need to be handled wherever they are being identified. It is, however, important to note that risk management systems of different businesses varies according to their various business activities. In other words, there are no standard risk classifications because the nature of business risk varies between different types of businesses. However, irrespective of the fact that there are different types of business risks depending on the nature of the business that an organization is carrying out, we can still identify some common classifications or categories of business risks, which include the following. Number one, market risks. These are business risks derived from the target market, that is the sector in which the business is operating. The type of risk that come from the sector that the organization is operating is referred to as the business risk. Example include the risk of not patronizing the business of an organization. You may sell a particular product. At the end of the day, you may not be able to get enough patronage. Risk of not satisfying the target market needs. You may also produce the product. At the end of the day, the product will not be able to meet the needs and expectations of the customers. These are examples of business risk. Number two, we have product risk. Product risk. This includes risks of the development of a better suitable or a competitive product by a competitor, which may lead to a decline in the sales of the product. When a more superior product comes on board, when your competitors are able to come up with a more superior product to what you are offering in the market, it will lead to your product becoming obsolescence or becoming out of use or out of date. As a result, your organization is going to suffer serious losses. That is exactly what referred to as product risk. When a competitor is able to come up with a more superior and sophisticated product that takes over what your business market should have been. In that situation, customers will shift from buying your own product and start buying those superior products that are being offered by the competitors. That's an example of a product risk. We also have commodity price risk. Commodity price risk. These risks include risks of charging high prices on products, which may lead to a decline in the sales and the profitability. So what we mean by commodity price risk is the risk that you may charge very high prices, more than what other people are charging in the market, and this can lead to decline in your sales your sales volume as well as the profitability. When your price is higher than what other people are selling in the market, according to the law of demand, the higher the price, the less the quantity demanded. When you are selling higher price than what is obtainable in the marketplace, there is the tendency that the consumers will shift from buying your product because it's higher price compared to other products. They will start buying those products of other competitors. In that situation, you are going to have the problem of what referred to as a commodity price risk. The next one is product reputation risk. A product reputation risk is very difficult to quantify or measure. Product reputation risk usually affects a company's relationship with the general public and customers. It's usually capable of affecting the brand image of the company's product, as well as the tarnishing the goodwill, good reputation, or good image of the entity, depending on the degree of product defects or unethical acts or, unethical omissions, as the case may be. What I'm trying to say here is this: product reputation risk, it can bring serious problem for an organization's product, for the organization's image, because when your product suffers some defects, some image reputations, that can lead to customers not patronizing such a product. It can lead to the devastating of the organization's goodwill. When your product suffers a reputation risk, there is a tendency that customer will stop buying the product and start buying the product of competitors because your product has suffered some defects. Nobody want to pay money for products that are defective. That's why whenever an organization suffers some defects or some image debasement, that could be a problem for such an organization. That's what referred to as a product reputation risk. Now let's look at sources of product reputation risk. Sources of product reputation risk. Number one, product reputation risk might arise from bad publicity made about a company's business operations. Product reputation risk can arise as a result of bad reputation that are being made in the society or in the marketplace about an organization's product. When there are bad advertisements going on about an organization's product, the consumers will start having the impression that such product is below expectation or that it has fallen short of standards. If that happens, that product will suffer product reputation risk. So that's one source of product reputation risk. That's an advertisement made by a competitor about an organization's product on sale. Another source of product reputation risk is product reputation risk can also arise from unethical issues practiced by an organization. When an organization is noted for unethical behaviors, that can affect the product that is selling. For example, most recently, a manufacturer of branded leisure footwear suffered damages to his reputation when it was reported that one of his suppliers of manufacturers footwear in the Far East used child labor and slave labor. When it was reported that a particular company was using child labor and slave labor to manufacture the product, in fact, that organization's product suffered some reputation risk because many organizations, especially those people that are against some unethical behaviors like using child labor or slave labor to produce certain products. A lot of people worldwide will shun off from patronizing such products and services. So an organization can suffer some product reputation risk by engaging in some unethical practices like using labor, child labor or slave labor, as the case may be. Another source of product reputation risk is product reputation risk could also result from business relationship with incompetent or substandard business partners. When you are having some dealings with some incompetent business partners or some business partners that you engaging in some substandard products that are selling substandard products and that you're not using them as part of your business partner, an organization can suffer some defects or what referred to as product reputation risk by having partnership with somebody or a business organization that operates below standard. So organizations can equally suffer product reputation risks by having anything or partnership with an organization that is highly rated for engaging in substandard products. Another source of product reputation risk is that product reputation risks could also result from negligent production and sales of lower quality products. When organizations start to practice certain things, the use of low quality raw materials and start producing low quality products, and it become this things become aware. I mean, the customers become aware of this kind of practices. that the organization is now using low quality raw materials and now producing substandard products. That can shatter the organization's reputation and therefore cause problem for such an organization. Now let's look at effects of product reputation risk on a larger global company. Effect of product reputation risk on a larger global company. Whenever an organization is noted or suffers some product reputation risk, there could be some serious effects. This can go ahead to affect its profitability and cash flow. The effects of product reputation risk include the following. Number one, product reputation risk might lead to loss of public confidence both locally and internationally. Product reputation risk can lead to loss of confidence about the organization both locally and internationally. Number two, depending on the degree of the product reputation risk, business collapses or liquidation might become inevitable when an organization is noted highly for engaging in some substandard products, and as a result, it suffers some product reputation risk. That can equally lead to the collapse of such a business because when customers' patronage start to decline as a result of the shattered image of the company, invariably, as soon as things continue that way, definitely the company may go into liquidation. So that's also another cause or another that's another thing that can happen to an organization that is engaging in or that is suffering from product reputation risk. Another thing that can happen to an organization that is engaging in product reputation or suffering from product reputation risk is that the product reputation risk on a larger global company might lead to a loss of revenue and brand value of the company's worldwide. The company may suffer loss of revenue and its brand will start declining. The market share of the company will start declining worldwide as a result of what? The shattered image of that particular company and its brand in the international market. So, product reputation risk can have devastating effect on the cash flow or on the profitability of the company. Another result of product reputation risk is that product reputation risk can also make customers to lose confidence in the product and the services of the company. And when that happens, definitely it will become what? The survival of that organization, as we have said, will start to be in jeopardy. That's why measures have to be taken to ensure that the organization doesn't suffer any product reputation risk. Another class of risk we are looking at is credit risk. That's another classification of business risk is credit risk. Credit risks are the possibility of losses due to non-payments or late payments by customers or of late settlement payable to suppliers. What we're saying here is that credit risks are the possibility of losses due to non-payments or late payments by customers or late settlement payable to suppliers. Credit risks may arise from loan received or loan extended. Credit risks, in some other ways, refer to bad debts or delays by customers in the settlement of their debts. So when an organization customers refuse to pay the debt that they owe, it's part of credit risk. Or when you borrow money from banks, at the end of the day, you fail to pay such money that you borrow from banks, the bank will suffer what we refer to as credit risk. Or you refuse to pay settled debts, goods you purchase from the suppliers. At the end of the day, you would suffer what we refer to as settlement credit risk. The suppliers in the future may decide not to honor your arrangement with them or business relationship with them, because they have noted you as a debtor, that you don't live to your promises. At the end of the day, in the future, they may decide not to sell products to you again as a result of you defaulting in such agreements. Another business risk is currency risks. Currency risk. Currency risk is also referred to as a foreign exchange risk. It arises from the possibility of movement in foreign exchange rate, and the value of one currency in relation to another. This one is applicable to those engaging in international trade. So, currency risk is the risk that one currency may depreciate against other currency in international settlement, international trade. For instance, the rate of naira depreciating with respect to the value of a dollar. If naira exchange rate is depreciating while that of dollar is appreciating, any foreign Nigerian trader that want to import product from United States of America, we need to pay higher amount of naira to be able to import other products from United States of America. Invariably, the business owner or the businessman from Nigeria is suffering what referred to as currency risk. Another type of business risk we are looking at is interest rate risk. Interest rate risk. Interest rate risk is the risk of unexpected losses arising as a consequence of a rise or fall in the interest rate. When an organization suffers some losses as a result of increase or reduction in interest rate, we refer to such as interest rate risks. Another classification of business risk is what referred to as gearing risk. Gearing risk. Gearing ratio is the ratio of debt to equity. It is aimed at testing a company's capacity to service its debt. When we're talking about gearing risk, it's a risk that a company has been engaging in a series of debts. You have been including so much debt in your capital that they say that you don't have enough money again to settle those debts. When you engage in a series of debts, there is the possibility that you'll be paying more interest to settle those debts, and you may suffer what referred to as leverage risk or gearing risk. That other companies in the future may decide not to extend some loan facilities to you because you'll be seen as being highly geared. When you're highly geared, in the subsequent future, no organization would like to lend you some money. That is why organizations are usually being advised to make sure that they keep their gearing very low. And we use the gearing ratio to determine whether a company is highly geared or low geared. When a company is highly geared, other creditors may default or may decide not to borrow such a company further loans or extend some financial services or loans facilities to such an organization, because they will believe that before you settle the people you are owing, it will take time before you now start paying their own loan facilities. And as a result, the organization may not be able to receive some other financial assistances from financial institutions because the company is highly geared. The next classification of business risk is what referred to as liquidity risks. Liquidity risks may occur if a company is unable to settle liabilities from the conversion of liquid assets or current assets into cash for the settlement of whatever money it has borrowed. It occurs when a company has no money in the bank or is unable to borrow more money from the banks or is not able to turn its assets into cash to settle its debt. If that is the situation, we say the company may face the problem of liquidity risk. Liquidity risk is a situation why a company have liquidity challenges. You are not able to generate funds from yourselves, or you don't have the ability to borrow funds from banks, or you cannot sell your assets to generate cash to be able to meet your immediate cash needs. If that's the situation, we say the organization is suffering from what we refer to as a liquidity risk. Liquidity risk can lead to insolvency because the creditors can take you to court and the court will declare you insolvent. You may have some investments, you can have some assets that are lying there, and yet the company can still be liquidated because of the fact that you are not able to have enough money, cash, to settle your debts as at the time the need arises. That's why it's very advisable that companies should try as much as possible to have some source of cash at every point in time to meet up with their immediate capital needs or cash needs to avoid going insolvent. The next classification of business risk we are looking at is political risk. Political risks are risks of political instability in a country. When a country is facing turmoil, civil war or civil unrest, leading to some businesses collapsing or the environment becoming so harsh, that is actually what referred to as a political risk. Examples are civil war, civil unrest, riots being associated with political issues. Another classification of business risk is legal or litigation risks. Legal or litigation risks. These refer to risks of legal suits or legal actions taken up against an organization. When there is a legal suit or legal action against a company, we refer to such as legal or litigation risks. Another classification of business risk is what referred to as regulatory risks. Regulatory risks are risks arising from the possibility that legal or statutory regulations will affect or change the way and manner in which an organization has to operate. So regulatory risks arise from the possibility that legal or statutory regulations will affect or change the way and manner in which an organization has been operating in the past. When there are new laws or new regulations coming in on board that require that companies have to change the way they operate, that you have to comply with the new laws and regulations, the organization suffers such a risk that they may not be able to meet up with such new requirements or such regulatory requirements. That's an example of what referred to as a regulatory risk. An example is when in Nigerian CBN introduced the minimum 25 billion capital base. So many banks went underground because they could not meet up with the regulatory requirements. The requirement was that before you can set up and operate as a bank in Nigeria, you must have a minimum capital base of 25 billion. So many banks went underground because they were not able to meet up with that CBN regulatory requirement. That is exactly what referred to as a regulatory risk. The next classification of risk is compliance risk. These are risks of non-compliance or non-adherence with existing laws or regulations. Compliance risks. The risk that a company will not be able to adhere to or comply with a regulatory law or regulation. That's exactly what we refer to as compliance risk. The next classification of risk is technological risks. In this modern world, technology improves every day in a dynamic nature. Failing to change with a changing technology system, or when a company is incompetent or fails to incorporate the latest technology, it might lead to what referred to as technology risk. Technology is the in thing these days. There are technology changes and innovations taking place in the world of today. Any business that fails to comply with this changing technology face the risk of technology risk. The next classification of business risk we are looking at is economic risk. Economic risk. Economic risks include risks of economic recession, inflation, high taxation, unfavorable balance of trade, etc. So the risk of having economic recession, inflation, high taxation, and unfavorable balance of trade is what referred to as economic risk. Economic risk affects the smooth flow of the economic system of production, distribution, and exchange of products and services. Economic risk usually affects all the organizations within the country. Example of economic risk is when there is recession in the country. Whenever a country suffers a recession or what referred to as a depression, most companies in such an economy usually suffer some level of risk. They usually resort to some strategies to manage such challenges. Some of them may go liquidation. They may start cutting, downsizing, right sizing, or adopting so many other strategies to manage such challenges. The next type of business risk we are looking at is environmental risk. Environmental risks are simply risks of losses caused by the organization to its environment or caused by the environment to the organization itself. So environmental risk is the risk that the organization will suffer some losses as a result of havoc coming from the environment or the organization causing havoc to the environment itself. These are what referred to as environmental risk. Such risk could be that there is a catastrophe coming from the environment. There could be a natural disaster coming from the environment and affecting the organization. There could be a fire incident, for instance, within the neighborhood, and that can bring some catastrophic problems to the organization. In that situation, the organization faces what referred to as environmental risk. Or there could be pollution, oil spillage. These are all part of environmental challenges that may affect organizations negatively. Also, the organization itself may decide to devastate the environment. There could be gaseous emission coming from the organization itself and spilling over into the environment, having some causing some damages to the environment. In that situation, the organization itself has caused problem to the environment. These are still part of what referred to as environmental risk. So the next classes of business risk we are looking at is what referred to as health and safety risks. Health and safety risks. Health and safety risks are risks that can affect the well-being of the employees or the well-being and health of the employees, customers, and the general public. So when there are challenges that has to do with health and the well-being of the employees, the customers, even the general public, that's exactly what referred to as health and safety risks. Another classification of business risk is what referred to as business probity risk. Business probity risk. These are risks of losses arising from a failure to act in an honest way. When a business organization fails to act in an honest way, we refer to that as a business probity risk. They are mostly related to governance and the ethics of the organization. Examples include business probity risks arise from illegal trade. For some products, there might be a large trade in smuggling and other unethical behaviors. Smuggling like cigarettes and alcohol products. Companies that smuggle such products are engaging in some what unethical behaviors. They might even be tempted to to do and trade in those products have been what? Smuggled. Because most of the products that are smuggled, they may sell it below price. They will not pay taxes that is expected of them to pay. Even so, smuggled products are being prohibited from being imported into the country. For a company that's engaging in or buying products that are being smuggled, they are acting in an unethical way. That is part of what referred to as a business probity risk. Business probity risk can also arise if bribery is tolerated in the business operation. When an organization tend to give give bribe, both to the government officials, like instead of you paying your taxes, you now resort to settle government officials, these tax officials. You're acting unethically. That is part of what referred to as a business probity risk. You are not expected to give bribe no matter how attractive the offer may be. You are not also expected to accept bribe no matter the amount of money you may be offered. All these are what referred to as a business probity risk. The next risk we want to look at is derivative risks. Derivative risks simply refer to the risk of using financial instruments. The risk of using financial instruments. They can also be called investment risk. It is worth to pertinently note that derivative instruments are simply contracts for the price of what is being traded, and it is settled by the payment or the differences between the fixed price in the contract and the market price or rate of settlement date for the contract. When we're talking about these derivatives, there are a lot of them. We have something like swaps and other contracts that are traded in international market. These are mostly applicable for those people that are engaging in international trade. There are many of these instruments that are being used to transact business activities in international trade. Now, business risk can also be classified as follows. We can have generic risk and specific risk. Generic risk, if it affects all the businesses, that's exactly what referred to as a generic risk. Risk that affects all the businesses. Example is interest rate risk, environmental risk, as well as political risk. So when we have a risk that occurs that's affecting all the businesses located in an area, we refer to such as a generic risk. We also have what referred to as specific risk. The specific risk affects individual businesses. Examples include credit risk, product risk, and reputation risk. These are risks that affect individual businesses. We refer to such as specific risks. Now let's look at business risk assessment. Business risk assessment. Risk can be assessed through risk mapping or risk profiling by combining both frequency and severity of risks in order to determine the level of relevance or how significant each category of risks are. We can measure risk by looking at the severity of risk as well as the frequency of that risk. This is done through what referred to as risk mapping or risk profiling. Risk map. This is a diagrammatic representation that categorizes risks in accordance with their level of occurrence and frequency. I take it again. Risk map. This is a diagrammatic representation that categorizes risks in accordance with their level of frequency and severity, that is impact. It is usually placed on or identified on a map. So when you have a map that shows diagrammatically the frequency of occurrence of a risk and the impact or severity of that risk, that is what referred to as risk map. Also, we have what referred to as risk profile. A risk profile can also be called a risk record or risk history or risk dashboard of an entity. It's a profile that details out all the previous losses or risk experienced of a business entity according to their level of frequency and severity. So when you have a detail that shows what risk that the organization have suffered in the time past, showing their severity as well as the frequency of occurrence, that's what referred to as a risk profile. This tool is used for risk prioritization, which ranks risk with the use of colors, indicating the level of threats or danger present in such a risk. The colors mostly used here include traffic light colors as well as red, amber, and green. The risks on red are the ones that pose greater threat. Amber indicating that there are controls but not adequate, while green color imply that there are adequate controls or possibly the risks are minimal. These are different colors that are used. We use red, amber, and green. The red indicates that the risk is very high. This poses greatest threat to the organization. Amber, on the other hand, indicates that the risk has been what? Somehow controlled. Minimized, but not adequately controlled. There is some level of control on such a risk, but is not adequate. While green color implies that there is what? An adequate control of the risk, or the risk has been kept to the barest minimum. So we're going to stop here. Next time, we continue on our discussion on risk management. Have a lovely day.